The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Barnick Fantasy. The recommended new customers play just $5, get $100 bonus funds. Use promo code NBA SGPN. And welcome everyone to the NBA Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Wednesday morning, October 15th, around 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm your Sky Reichel, once again joined by Lonte Smith. Together, we're going to break down the first two awards for our multiple award, series that we're going to have preseason. A reminder, season starts in 6 days, so keep that in mind. But point is, we are here to break down some awards, Sixth Man and Most Improved. Lonte, how's it going with you? What's up?
Not much, man. Getting closer to the season. That's exciting. Yeah, man. But these awards are pretty interesting this year. I think it's a lot of things that are wide open and a lot of parity that's going to go happen in the league. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. I think you can make the argument that some awards, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, you can expect some favorites to potentially win the award. I feel like it's
Yeah,
a more chalky award market.
yeah,
These two, not so much.
yeah,
These two can be very, very unpredictable because most improved just means that they weren't very good last year and suddenly they became good. Or you're a former number one pick and you randomly had a down year. Shout out to Ja, and they just randomly would give him the award. I'm hoping for the most improved, the Dyson Daniel winning the award last season might kind of get the award back on track. I think we lost the plot a couple years ago and we just kept giving it to former top 5 picks who had a down season or an injured season, and then they won the award. We never thought they were bad. I feel like once again, maybe the Dyson Daniels award winning season last year might shift the focus back to what it should be, which is kind of a bench warmer, a guy who's been an afterthought, suddenly becoming a very valuable piece to a team. So I'm hoping that that's what the awards turn into again. We'll see if they actually stick with that formula, but I'm hoping that we got back on track. So I guess I'm just mentioning that for the sake of reminding people that Most Improved has been a controversial award the
yeah,
last couple of
definitely.
years. Do we think we're finally back to where it should be, which is a bench warmer who suddenly got meaningful minutes becoming a good player?
Yeah, I'm skeptical on it because of all the things that you just talked about. I mean, it's just hard to kind of predict. Most improved is probably the worst voted on award in probably in all of sports, to be honest. Like not just NBA, like NFL as well. So yeah, I mean it's tough, but the good thing about it is you can kind of see the swings and pick up on guys who are like trending upwards who still have big
Mhm.
numbers. So it's easy to pick out somebody later on versus betting somebody pre-flop.
Yeah, definitely true. You tend to see a lot of steam in these markets, so you might be able to find yourself a good number, and
Yeah,
then immediately once the market crashes, you can kind of tell which players are going to have some value pretty early on because the odds are going to fluctuate very quickly, just based on the actual rotations of the respective teams. But for Sixth Man, we'll start off with the Sixth Man of the Year award. Before we get into the actual history of who's won in the past, a reminder that you could also check out the NHL for the Hockey Only podcast because Ryan and Joel break down the biggest games, storylines, awards, and best bets throughout the season. So once again, check out the Hockey Only podcast. Let it slide. So starting off with the first award for the upcoming season, we have the Sixth Man of the Year award. Now, I will point out one difference between Sixth Man and Most Improved. The actual team record does not matter for Most Improved. For Sixth Man of the Year, you tend to be on a good team. In fact, if you actually look at the history of the event, you've had a bunch of playoff teams featuring a sixth man who's won this award. Last year, Pritchard ended up winning. Of course, Boston was a top seed. You're looking at Naz Reid winning the year prior. Minnesota was a playoff team. Malcolm Brogdon on the Celtics. Of course, they were a playoff team as well. Tyler Hero, Miami Heat. They were a playoff team. Jordan Clarkson, Utah Jazz, back when they were good, playoff team as well. Then you have the Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, Clippers dominance. So once again, a lot of playoff teams being mentioned there. So if you want to go for a sixth man a long shot, keep in mind the team that they play for has to be pretty good. Don't pick a random bottom feeder team with a good bench player. They have to be on a good team. Is that a fair assessment?
yeah, I think so. Unless the stats are just absolutely absurd, um, that's something that you can probably look at. Also, I would weed out anybody that you think will play starter minutes or may benefit from being a starter for X amount of games. I forgot the cutoff of how many games that
I
they
thought it
can.
was half. I thought it was
Was
half and
half
half.
okay? Yeah, Yeah, so I would look at, some guys that well, I typically look at guys who I think are going to get a lot of minutes, probably going to play. I mean, six men, oftentimes the players like Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford, they finish games. So I'm looking for those type of guys, high end potential starters who can come in and contribute right away. So that's what kind of guys I'm looking for when I'm looking at six men.
Yeah, I do think there is a loophole around it, though, because of the half and half rule. In theory, if you are looking at some injury history for starters, you can take a player that plays half the season or more on the bench, but will get multiple starts because the guy ahead of him tends to get hurt. So keep that in mind. That's a slippery slope, because if the guy in front of him gets seriously hurt, suddenly he's not qualified for the award anymore, because the replacement, your guy that you're betting on, might play too many games as a starter that you lose automatically. So keep that in mind, kind of a balancing act there. But moving on to the odds, now I am going to point out that this market does have a ton of different prices if you shop around. So I'm going to use BetMGM for this, but once again, you might be able to find a guy that we mentioned, for example, at 15-1, maybe at 45-1 down the street. So make sure you shop your lines. You're going to see a bunch of different prices for different players, but for the sake of convenience, I'm going to use BetMGM because they have a lot of players listed for their player pool. So starting off with the favorite, or the co-favorite in the award market, you have DeAndre Hunter, who might start, might not, we'll see, but of course he is still on Cleveland. You have Naz Reid at 11-1, Jordan Clarkson now in the Knicks at 14-1. You have Simons, who joined the Celtics at 14-1. Ty Jerome, who's now Jaws backup in Memphis at 16-1. You have Tari Eason, 18-1. Reed Shepherd, 19-1. Josh Hart at 20-1. You have McCain, who's injured at 22-1. So there's no point in betting that now. I would wait. You have Norm Powell, who's now on Miami. Might start, might not start, but still 22-1. John Collins, 22-1 on the Clippers. You have Malik Monk at 25-1. Pritchard trying to repeat as sixth man of the year at 30-1. You have Cole Anthony, 30-1. Aldama, 30-1. PJ Washington, 30-1. Kuminga at 30-1. Shaden Sharp at 30-1. Bobby Portis at 35-1. Okonkwo, 35-1. Levert's at 35-1. Alexander Walker's 35-1. Grady Dick's at 40-1. To be honest, we can keep mentioning names. I might just jump around because there are so many players that you can mention. DiVincenzo is at 60-1. You have Lonzo at 60-1. McConnell's at 66-1, but of course he's out for at least the first month. Yeah, I think I named a bunch of people. If you want to go Bruce Brown back in Denver, that's a 66-1. You kind of get the point. So I'm going to ask you, Lonte. We'll start off with some long shots. Is there anybody that I did not mention that you think might have some value, maybe a super long shot for the market?
Well, it's kind of going against what you said about six man of the year as far as the team.
There's a chance the team could be good, though. You never know.
Well, this team, I don't think we agree on. I'm looking at like Kyle Filipowski for kind of six man of the year. Now, I don't know if he'll be like sixth or seventh, but I think there's going to be a trend line to where they maybe move off some pieces and he's possibly, kind of ushered into that six-man role. Obviously, he had a really good summer, really good end of the season, especially if they move kind of Kessler, then they'll probably he may start some as well, depending on when they do that. But I think the game threshold will still be within balance. So that was one of the long shots. I mean, I think he's a double-double machine. He proved it. He played against NBA level competition at the end of the year. Now, granted, the Utah wasn't playing at a high level, but I mean, the tanking thing is certainly a concern. But again, if anything, if we've been taught anything the past 2 or 3 years, tanking doesn't solidify you a top pick. So I'm a little bit higher on the Jazz. So maybe if they can get close to 25 wins or something like that, maybe he'll get some consideration. But that's just that's just what long shots are.
So out of curiosity, though, what was the price you said for Filipowski?
I saw. Hold on, let me make sure.
BetMGM doesn't even have him listed, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, so I saw this was on. I think this was on FanDuel. Let me make sure. I saw like 110,
okay.
like 110.
All right. I mean, 110-1. Look, I don't think it's going to win just because I don't think the Jazz are going to be good enough.
Yeah,
but
it's good.
I was going to say Filipowski for most improved, actually. So we're both high on him, but I think it's a better market than sixth man.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. But either way, I think he's a good player. But I still question the actual, I'd say, team strength of the Jazz. Anybody else you want to mention in the super long shot range?
Super long shot. Who else was I looking at? Well, I guess I don't know if it's considered a super long shot, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's like 30, right?
That counts.
Yeah, so I like Nickeil Alexander-Walker in
35 to 1 on BetMGM.
Yeah, so that's even better. Yeah, I mean, I just think he'll be in a more glorified role in Atlanta. Quinn plays a ton of guys. He relies a lot on the two guard system, and I do think that he can play better defense and actually benefit from playing with Trae Young. So he won't get his minutes cut or anything like that. They paid him a lot of money, so he's going to play. I think he'll contribute. We saw what he could do on one of the highest stages in the NBA. Play good in the playoffs. A scale down, even though it was a kind of a scale down role, I think he has more to offer both on offense and defense. So I like Nickeil Alexander-Walker at 35 to 1.
Yeah, I think he can definitely be a solid piece for that team. I mean, they acquired him for a reason. They think he can contribute immediately. So I do think that it's worth something there. I do want to mention my long shot, a guy who actually got second place last year. Right now is not on a team, so I'm going to go with his replacement instead. I'm going to go with Duncan Robinson. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win, but it's at plus 8,000. And the fact is, the Pistons brought him in to replace Malik Beasley. Beasley got second. He was a classic bench player who ended up playing 28 minutes a game because of how good he was from the three-point line. He made about 4 threes a game, averaged about 16 points per game, finished in second place. Now, I'm not saying that Duncan Robinson is going to be able to replicate that, but if he's anywhere near the same usage and the same attempt volume, I think 80 to 1 makes sense. Detroit people were high on as a potential team that showed a bit of potential last year. They lost in the first round to the Knicks, of course. But if they can potentially get to 48 wins, 50 wins as a decent seed, and they actually use Robinson in the same role as a guy coming off the bench, playing, you could argue, fringe starter minutes, and he ends up playing 20-something minutes and averages maybe 15 points per game. I don't mind that. I think 80 to 1 makes sense for a playoff team that's using him solely to shoot threes. Beasley last season, just by raw numbers, made a grand total of, how many threes did he make? 319? Like, there's a chance if they let Duncan Robinson run wild, I'm not saying that Beasley's a good defensive player. He's better than Duncan. That's the problem, is that if Duncan's defense is so bad, they might not give him the same amount of minutes. But I think 80 to 1 for a three-point flamethrower who can maybe somewhat replicate the Malik Beasley output from last year. I think there was an argument that his role is going to be what Malik's role was last year, and you need him for a floor spacing anyway. It's a bit different now that Ivy's healthy, though, so I am aware that it's going to be a bit different, but I think 80 to 1's worth a flyer if you think Duncan can potentially average 14, 15 a game on maybe, like, I would say high 40s percentage threes. Like, if he shoots 46% from threes, some absurd percentage, and averages 14 a game, you think he's in the running off the bench?
Yeah, he'll have a chance. I'm kind of worried about the role he'll carve out. That's the only thing.
I get
that. But I mean, it's a long shot, like you said. So injuries happen. Ivy is going to be. I mean, not to spoil anything, but I kind of like Ivy for most improved. Duncan possesses the ability to shoot the ball at a high level, and he will have a ton of space because of what Cade attracts, especially off the pick and roll with him and Duren. So I like it. High volume. I mean, if he makes a ton of threes, Detroit will be it kind of fits your mode of Detroit being like a top 4 or 5 seed in the East. So yeah, I kind of like Duncan Robinson. It's a long shot for a reason. So I agree with it.
I mean, once again, we're in the flyer section, so that's kind of why I'm starting there. I am going to throw out another guy. I think this team is going to go over the win total in the Eastern Conference episode, and I do think that this team maybe can escape the play-in for once. We'll see. I do want to mention Jovic at plus 8,000. I think that's worth something potentially. I know he has a back issue right now, so he actually ended up missing Sunday's game this past weekend, but once again, it's preseason. Who cares? Jovic last season averaged 10.7 points per game, 3.9 rebounds per game, but he only played 46 games. So I do think as a bench player, he started 10 games. You are looking at his potential role in this team. I don't know if his stats are going to jump up enough to be most improved because I don't see him averaging like 18 points per game. But you're looking at a Miami team that is going to be using Bam and Ware, Jovic. You could argue Jaquez maybe could be the sixth man on this team. But Jovic is a guy that just extended. They paid a lot of money for Jovic. I think that they like what he can do for this team. I think Miami should be decent enough. We might see Miami use a classic Heat culture 8-9-man rotation, and maybe Jovic pops. But I do like the extension that he just got. Clearly, the front office and Spoelstra liked the guy because they just paid him a lot of money. So we saw him in the playoffs. I mean, they lost by an all-time margin to Cleveland, but Jovic was the one player who showed up in that series. I thought he actually looked okay. I don't mind Jovic at 80-1. Once again, flyer section, but thoughts there? Because I think 80-1 makes sense for a Miami team that definitely could use him to play some serious minutes off the bench.
Yeah, I like Jovic. He'll carve out a role. Obviously, he did some good things in the playoffs. He actually was one of the on-ball initiators once they got rid of Jimmy. So I think the usage will be there. Yeah, I mean, I like Jovic. I'm worried about his injury history though, because he does get injured quite a bit. And a couple of weeks here and there out can put you way behind the 8 ball, especially with some of these guys at the top who are going to get ample opportunities to be on TV and be on winning teams. I think Miami is an interesting team. I don't think they're quite in the tier of some of these guys that are on the favorites like DeAndre Hunter, Jordan Clarkson, like some of those guys at the top. But I do think is a little bit of value in betting guys like Jovic, who's going to carve out a role and play significant minutes off the bench for a team who typically is probably going to need some bench scoring. I don't think they have a ton of guard depth at all, and I think Jovic can provide some of that. He's also a guy who can rebound, assist, so he'll fill the stat sheet as well. So yeah, I don't hate that.
That's kind of what I was hoping for. I'm hoping if he plays enough minutes, maybe he could average like 12, 5, and 5.
Yeah,
5 and 4.
Yeah,
see what happens. But 80-1, I didn't mind. I want to point out, though, a couple of players who might be popular choices, but I'm not sure they're going to actually be bench players. Dennis Schroeder, who I probably would take if he was on an actual team. Sacramento's a fake team, but he's starting. So, what's the point?
Yeah,
they're not going to trade him. They just signed him during the offseason. So I don't really see how Schroeder's supposed to win the award when he's supposed to start for the majority of the season. TJ McConnell, I would have taken, but of course, them being out for a month, there is a certain games threshold, which is annoying. But we know that if Indiana's any good, McConnell's going to be a big reason for that. So I wanted to ask you about some guys. We'll pivot for a second. Who are guys that you are not interested in that you think are getting some buzz? Ignoring prices, just some guys who you think are overvalued or just there is no value for the actual player.
DeAndre Hunter, the favorite. I don't think there's any value in him because I think he'll be starting a ton of games.
He's also hurt a lot.
Yeah, that too. And I just think that they have a good front line as well. I just can't. I mean, I typically don't buy favorites anyway. So that's
in this market, no chance. In this market, I'm
not
interested.
I mean, Naz Reid, no, not a chance. Peyton Pritchard, not a chance.
I'm not going to say not a chance for Naz, but I'm not going to pick Naz.
Yeah, I don't think he. Yeah, I just don't think that. What did he win it like 2 years ago?
Yeah, he won it 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think they have. It's rare that you see a guy. I mean, unless it's like Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams type of thing. And I don't think Naz is going to play to that level. He's also vying for big. I mean, he's not vying for minutes, but it's also a nice rotation of big men, and he might slide in and play a little bit more 5, more than Rudy will. So, yeah, I'll mark off those kind of guys.
Once again, I'm not picking Naz, but I think that you can argue there is a path for him.
Yeah, it is. I shouldn't say no shot, but just I just crossed
out. I don't think Hunter's got much of a shot personally, but I think Reed's got a better shot than Hunter.
Yeah, Clarkson is interesting, especially in that system with Mike Brown.
Do you think Clarkson's legitimately the 6th man on that team?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
He'll probably they'll move Deuce to 7th and kind of play him a lot with Brunson off the ball, free up some space for him. So yeah, I think Clarkson plays a lot of minutes for a lot of bench minutes for them, and New York will be a fun team. So yeah, but those are the few that I crossed off, along with guys like Dennis Schroeder, TJ McConnell. I kind of crossed off because I just don't know if the stats are going to be there. I mean, playoffs, yes, he was really, really good, but throughout the regular season, I'm not sure he'll get the numbers to do that. But that's just me though. But yeah, guys like that, and like guys like you talked about with Dennis Schroeder, who are going to play a ton. Mark those out. I mean, he's listed as a starter on the depth chart.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, guys like that, I didn't look at that. I mean, I know Cam Thomas is starting, right?
Who cares? I mean, that seems going to be terrible. Yeah, I got to imagine Thomas is starting.
Yeah, so yeah, guys like that I kind of crossed off as well.
Yeah, I do want to ask you, though, going back to some players you might actually like for this market.
Yeah.
Anybody else that has, I'd say, a decent price?
Yeah, I love two guys. I love Anthony Simons for Boston. He's going to see a lot of minutes. Obviously, in that system where they shoot a lot of threes, he'll be really good in that system. He doesn't have to worry about kind of initiating offense or creating for himself. He has Derek White. He has Jaylen Brown. A lot of guys that are going to dictate some of the pace and gravity. I mean, I just like him in this system. He will probably be the sixth man. It's kind of weird with the lineup.
Do you think Pritchard's starting?
I would start Pritchard just because of him being able to. I think that Simons is a better scorer, and you want him off the bench whenever you have to rest, a Jaylen Brown or a Derek White. So you want some instant offense with him. And I think that, Simons is like a 18, 19-point scorer. So, yeah, I think they put Pritchard in the starting lineup for now. Maybe they alternate. Kind of just depends. You never know with Missoula. But, yeah, I think it's some value in Simons at that number, especially if we just cross out Pritchard, obviously, from not going back-to-back. So I like him. I also like Ty Jerome. I think he fills all of the voids that we talked about as far as playing some starter minutes with Ja's injury history. They paid him a decent amount of money. Their backcourt is interesting, I'd say, with Scottie Pippen Jr. and Ty Jerome. We saw Ty Jerome have a lackluster postseason, but he was really good in the regular season. I think it's a similar role from his time in Cleveland. So I like those two guys at the top.
Yeah, for the record, I think Jerome should have won the award last year, but that's a separate point.
Yeah.
No offense to Pritchard, but I thought Jerome was just an instrumental piece to that Cleveland team during the regular season. But yeah, Jerome, I was interested in. Simons, by the way, is at 14-1 on BetMGM. Ty Jerome's at 16-1. I don't know if you have a different price available that you were looking at for those two guys.
No, that's what I got too.
Okay, so I'm going to go a bit longer for people I was tempted by. They're actually right next to each other. So first person, I do want to ask you, because it's going to be the annual question, but I have to bring it up. How many games do you think Porzingis actually plays this season?
I don't know. You can't really I'd stay away from looking at reports of how people looking workouts, how they I stay away from.
It's all about game stuff because
Yeah.
I just want to ask: do you think Porzingis reaches 41 games played this season?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. Then you're going to hate my.
37, 38.
You're going to hate my choice then because I actually like Okonkwo at around 35-1. I think he's good enough to start, but according to reports, he's not going to start because it seems like Porzingis is going to be getting starter minutes. So if Okonkwo actually comes off the bench and Porzingis ends up missing, let's just say 30 games, he reaches the threshold but still misses a bunch of games, Okonkwo is going to be eligible for sixth man as a starter for a month and a half, for 2 months. So it's a potential loophole if you want to try to assume pretty poor, I'd say, health for Porzingis.
I like that, yeah.
But healthy enough for him to actually reach a certain criteria where Okonkwo's coming off the bench for the majority of games this season.
Yeah.
I like the price. Okonkwo last season averaged about 14-9.
Yeah.
I think he's a very solid player, and if Porzingis is going to start for spacing purposes, pick and roll stuff, Okonkwo off the bench should play a lot of minutes because he's good. And on top of that, I think we all know if he does end up playing as a starter while qualifying for the award, it's a boost in overall usage and stats. So I'm going to Okonkwo.
Yeah, I do. I like that. I don't dislike that. I like it.
I'm banking on Porzingis to get hurt, but hopefully he actually plays enough games where Okonkwo qualifies for the award. But 35-1, he averaged almost a double-double last season.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some value on that. I'll go with Okonkwo at 35-1. Next to him is another big man. He's a pretty, I'd say, popular sixth man, and I'm not sure this team's going to be very good. But you know what? The East is going to stink. Give me Bobby Portis at 35-1. At the end of the day, they traded away Brook Lopez, so they have Miles Turner now who's going to be starting. They still have basically no bench, if we're being honest. They brought in Amir Coffey, they brought in a couple of guys, but it's Giannis and everyone else at this point. I do think Turner's had some injury history in the past. That could play a factor too. Giannis had some injury history in the past. So Portis might actually start some games for this team over the season. But if Milwaukee does end up having a great season, or at least they end up winning 45-plus games, we know Portis consistently walks into about 13 a game. He averaged 8 rebounds per game last season, and he only started 7 games. Now, he missed a bunch of games. He got injured, played 49. Before that, though, he had played 70 in 3 straight seasons, 70-plus. So I'm going to go with Bobby Portis. I'm lower on Milwaukee than most people, but I do think for a guy who's well known in the league as being a solid bench player on a team that's really not that deep, I think Portis can have a good role. And I do think if Giannis gets hurt or Turner gets hurt, he can start some games as well. So I'm going to go Bobby Portis at 35 to 1.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good breakdown.
Yeah. You have anybody else you want to mention?
No, I think I mentioned I mentioned my three. The three that I love are Simons, Nickeil Alexander Walker, and who's the other guy that I liked? No.
Well, you mentioned Filipowski.
No, not Filipowski. It was another one. Hold on, my bad. I got it listed right here. Simons, Ty Jerome, and no.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, those are the three that I'm banking on, like as my top three.
Yeah, out of the favorites that are listed, you have Hunter, you have Reed, you have Clarkson, you have Simons, you have Jerome. I'd take Jerome out of those guys. We know he got paid a lot of money for Memphis. Ja's hurt all the time. Same thing I always mention. I mentioned earlier with Okonkwo and Porzingis. If John's a missing 2 months, Jerome's starting, most likely. Maybe it's Pippen Jr., actually, but truth is, I don't know how much Caldwell Pope is left in the tank anyway. So there is a chance that maybe Pippen Jr. and Jerome could start. We'll see how that works out, but I think Jerome can get a lot of usage and a lot more playing time if Ja gets hurt, which is, I think we can agree, inevitable based on his career. Yeah. So Jerome would be my favorite out of the, once again, under plus 2,000 threshold. I think 16 to 1 makes the most sense for Jerome there. You mentioned Simons. The issue that I have is if Pritchard is not actually starting, then technically Simons is not the sixth man on his own team.
Yeah, that's the only issue. But I would rank Simons, Jerome, just based on I'm thinking that Simons is going to start. So it's not going to start, but yeah,
Simons is not going to start. That's a guarantee. The thing is, I don't know if Pritchard's going to or not. Because in theory, Derek White can maybe play point guard. I think Pritchard probably does start, but Mazzulla's weird.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is a chance that maybe Pritchard tries to start, doesn't work out. They move him back to the bench. And at that point, Simons is the seventh man. And I'm curious if voters will hold it against him because he's not actually playing that role for what the award is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So I don't really like the price on Simons. Not to mention Boston. I'm not sure how good they're actually going to be. I'm passing on Clarkson. I do think the Knicks should be very good this season, but I don't actually know if he's going to be the sixth man or not. I think he will be, but they still have McBride. They still have a couple other guys. We'll see. Even if Brogdon stays healthy, we'll see what his role is going to be. But, yeah, I think I'll pass on him too. I want to ask you, though, Josh Hart's listed at plus 2,000. He's a starter, so I don't know what the point is of that. But I want to ask you about the Rockets because they have Eason and Shepherd right next to each other at 18 to 1 and 19 to 1. Shepherd, we think, might be starting because they have no point guard. So we're going to see what they do because of the Van Vliet injury. Do you think they should be right next to each other? Because based on the actual role, Eason is a bench player. We know that for certain. I think Shepherd might start. I don't know why Shepherd is below plus 2,000. He also didn't really have a good season at all last year. So I think he's more of a most improved guy.
Yeah, that's one of the guys I was going to mention. Yeah.
But I think the Reed Shepherd price here at plus 1,900 is an insane price. I think it should be a lot higher at like 40 or 50 to 1. You?
Yeah, I agree with that. I was going to mention Reed in the most improved, but I think he's more of that type of candidate. Even if he's not starting, I think Tari Eason will be the first guy off the bench just because of the way that he fits Ime's style. He plays defense, rebounds the ball. He can initiate as well. They're going to need multiple initiators on the court without having a point guard. So I like the way that Eason kind of fits the style of play for Houston. Now, Reed, like I said, I think he's more of a most improved candidate versus sixth man. Even if he is off the bench, I think Eason will be ahead of him as far as like guys off the bench for defensive purposes, especially.
I agree. I'll throw out two other names though of guys who are going to be popular choices, but I don't know how much they have left in the tank. First one's Alonzo. I have no interest because I'm not sure he even reaches the I'd say game threshold to qualify. He's at 60 to 1. He's the new backup point guard by default. So
I love Alonzo, but I got to see him.
65 games?
Yeah, I got to see him play.
That's a lot. I can't take that. So I wanted to mention him. And last but not least, I'll mention him because he's reunited with the team he won a title with. Bruce Brown, 66 to 1.
I like Powell. Norm Powell better than Bruce Brown.
Yeah, and Powell's probably going to be starting until Hero comes back, and then once Hero comes back, he'll go back
Yeah.
to the bench.
Yeah.
So, all right, just asking because I know Bruce Brown can be a stat sheet guy that, is going to be taking over the Westbrook role.
Yep.
I think people are going to be tempted by him. I don't think that he's going to win it. That's why I'm passing on it, but I kind of wanted your thoughts on Brown.
Yeah. Yeah, I would prefer Powell over Brown. I just think he's not going to do enough scoring.
Yeah, I'll throw in Powell too at 22-1.
Yeah, Powell's a good one.
I do think with Hero starting the season on the bench because he's injured, I do think that Powell can start the season off hot, and then once Hero comes back, he'll already have some momentum behind him, which can make this price plummet. So, yeah, I think I'll take him as well for my choices. But, once again, my options for sixth man, just looking at I'm gonna mention some guys that are once again a longer shot, so bet responsibly for your choices. I do think Jerome has some value at 16-1. I think Powell does as well at 22-1. I will throw in a Okonkwo 35-1, a Portis at 35-1, and I'll throw in. I don't think I'm going to take Jovic and Robinson, so I think I'll go with Robinson at 80-1. Who do you just run through your choices again?
Yeah, it would be Simons would be my top choice. Ty Jerome would be second. Nickeil Alexander-Walker would be third. I love Norm Powell at that number. And then I guess I'm trying to figure out another long shot.
I'm going to try to convince you not to take Filipowski.
No. Eason would be my other one.
Okay. I mean, Eason's around like 19-1.
Yeah, so that would be my top five.
All right, there you go. Anyway, time to move on into most improved. But before we get into that award, a reminder brought to you by our sponsor, Book.ag. You can bet on football. You can bet on basketball, of course. They have hockey as well. Prop builder second to none. Their model simple. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime. Use crypto and get NFS payouts and deposits easily with crypto. So a reminder, head to mybook.ag. Use code SGPN for 100% bet back bonus $500 for customers. Book.ag, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Novig, which is the number one prediction market for sports in America. Getting some great prices on Novig available in 35 plus states. Download the Novig app. $50 and spend just $5 if use the promo code SGPN. Down the actual Novig, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Game Podcast. Finished going through the Sixth Man of the Year award market. Time to move on into most improved player, which you could argue is the most unpredictable market because there are a bunch of players listed. Criteria has been very questionable over the years. We'll see how it goes. Now, for most improved, to read off the recent winners, Dyson Daniels won it last year. Before that, you had a bunch of good players who randomly won the award. Tyrese Maxey, Lauri Markkanen, John Morant, Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Pascal Siakam. So the last couple of years with Ja, Lauri, and Maxey, nobody ever thought they were bad, and they won most improved. So the Ja one is still an all-timer. Guy was a top 3 pick in the draft. Like, that doesn't make any damn sense. But either way, Dyson Daniels, we know, was more of an afterthought, and then he turned out to be a really good player who almost won Defensive Player of the Year as well. So I feel like you make an argument that the voters got it right last year just for pivoting off of Cade to give it to a guy who kind of battled for an actual rotation spot and became a serious threat on the roster. So I'm hoping we get that same, I'd say, vibe moving forward, that same voter mentality moving forward. Is it guaranteed? No, because I think we'd agree that the voting criteria is the most random for this actual market. But for the odds, I'll read off some of them, then we'll do the same format as we did for Sixth Man. We'll go for some long shots, etc. You have Amon as the favorite at 10-1, Nembhard 14-1, Mathurin 14-1, Avdi is 16-1, Buzel is 16-1. You have Sharp at 20-1, Asar Thompson 20-1, Giddey 20-1, Jovic is at 25-1, Pritchard 35-1, Ivy 40-1, Michael Porter Jr. at 40-1, Kevin Porter Jr. 40-1, Reed Shepard 40-1, Jay Huff 40-1, Kuminga 50-1, Jalen Johnson 50-1, Trey Murphy 50-1, Derek White 50-1, Barnes 50-1, Neesmith 50-1. Honestly, I can keep mentioning names, but for the sake of the actual award, I think I'll just stop there and we'll just mention some guys we like besides the ones I just mentioned. So I'll let you go first. Same thing that we did for Sixth Man. Any serious long shots you're interested in for the market?
Yeah, a couple actually. Love Trey Murphy at this price. Just he fits the typical theme of how they generally vote on it. Injured last year, he's awesome, but I think that he can elevate his game even more, especially if the Pelicans. I think I took the over on the Pelicans. I'm not sure if you did, but I'm a little bit higher on them than most people.
I ended up taking the over, but not by a lot.
Yeah, so I think Trey can be really good. I think he can be a fringe all-star with the way he shoots the ball, with the way the spacing is, especially with Zion's on the floor. He just got to stay healthy. So if healthy, I think 51 is a good price for Trey, who's a good scorer. And I think he'll battle for an all-star. So Trey Murphy is one of my longer shots at 50-1. Also love Ivy, good comeback story, good team. He was really like hitting his stride before he got injured. So I think him in that system, beside Cade, as another ball handler, if he can ascend to be, 17, 18 points, 4 or 5 assists, I think he's got a shot. So those are my two longer shots at 50-1.
Yeah, so I have a long shot. I'm going to go based on what I think the award's meant to be, which is a guy who basically did nothing last season, but now has a bigger role and can play very well. I'm going to go to Boston. I'm going to take Keita, the center for Boston. I liked him a lot in college, watching him play at Utah State. I thought he was very good. But he was picked 39, so he was a second-round draft pick. Last season, buried in the depth chart because, of course, they had Porzingis. They also had Cornette. Both those guys are gone now. So Keita's supposed to start. He averaged 5 points per game last year and 3.8 rebounds per game. Also a good defensive player, so I do think he can have an impact defensively. But he played 13.9 minutes per game last season. He's the starting center. Looking at the depth chart for Boston, they have Keita, they have Luke Garza, and it's basically it. So if you're looking at minutes, I think Keita can easily have, just based on usage alone, a decent path. Now he has to play well, but if Keita ends up averaging, let's say, a 12-point double-double on an okay Boston team, and he ends up playing 25, 30 minutes a game, 60-1. Really? I mean, once again, he averaged less than 6 points per game last season and less than 4 rebounds per game. He can average a double-double. It wouldn't shock me if that happened, but no Cornette, no Porzingis. There's a lot of room in that front court for growth. I'll take Keita at 60-1. I think he has a big role ahead of him.
That's a good one. I like Keita. I wanted a little bit longer, so I didn't bid. I wanted like close to triple digits. But
I think once again you probably could find triple digits if you actually shop around. But for the sake, once again, of convenience, BetMGM has a bunch of players listed, so I'm just mentioning the odds there. But I think it's a great option because Boston, we know, can get creative with the front court. We have seen players. I know Keita's not a three-point shooter, so it might not actually fit what Boston wants to do. But as a defensive anchor who might be able to average maybe 2 blocks a game, block and a half per game, you throw in potentially 12 points, 8 rebounds, I think he's got a shot at it. I think 60-1 makes sense, but I think you're right, though. I think you probably could find 100-1 if you shop around long enough. But I'll take Keita as my first choice, who for some reason has the same odds as Wemby, which doesn't make any damn sense, but there we go. Same odds as Wemby and same odds as Şengün. So interpret that however you want. I'll ask you, though, for your next option, though, any other long shots you're interested in?
No long shot. Well, I guess it would be considered a long shot, but I like Reece Shepherd. We talked about it. I mean, he's going to get a lot more opportunity.
Yeah, he's at 40-1, so that counts.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the opportunity is going to be there. Going to be on a team that's going to get a lot of exposure, a lot of big time games, especially with they got one of the highest win totals in the NBA. So I think we can expect him to kind of contribute. I mean, I like Reed. I really do. I just don't like where he's slotted at. Like, I don't like the. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's an Ime player per se, but I do think he has to contribute. I mean, with Van Vliet going down, it's a big void to fill at the guard level. He can shoot it. He can play off ball. He showed that at Kentucky with him and Rob Dillingham. So I like him as well. I think he's a sneaky type of guy who can, maybe average 15 to 16 points just strictly off of being in the right place at the right time. I mean,
if the 3-point shot's falling and he's getting serious minutes because they don't have any guard depth, he can definitely average double digits for a guy who didn't do much last season.
Yeah, and he showed in certain, like, in games where he played, like, he performed. So in an expanded role on a consistent basis, I think Reed is a good player to kind of target at that price.
Yeah, I see that somebody in the comments section, by the way, is mentioning Cam Whitmore, who is A potential option there on the Wizards. I mean, the team's going to suck.
They got so many guys. I can't trust. Like I like some of the pieces that they have, but they have so many of the same player. Like so many of the same player.
Yeah, I don't think I would bet Whitmore personally, but I get where your head's at. Though.
Yeah, I get it.
Washington's going to be bad. They acquired him because clearly they see something in terms of potential. I don't know how consistent his minutes are going to be. That's why I'm passing on Whitmore, but I can understand where you're going with that. And if the Wizards do decide to lean into him, then the sky's the limit for Whitmore. So, for example, the BetMGM has Whitmore at 50 to 1, and you found 75. So another example of shopping around to try to find a good price. Looking at some other options that I think could be interesting. I love Filipowski at 6 to 1. I think Filipowski is a very good player. Mm-hmm. I think that he's a guy who people were kind of lower on out of the draft. He's a second-round pick, technically. He was very early into the second round. He had the controversy with his babysitter who groomed him, and that was like what people were talking about at the draft, but people forgot he actually could play basketball. He averaged 9.6 points per game, 6.1 rebounds per game. So his stats were actually pretty good last year. But if they trade Kessler, he might get a bunch of minutes. We'll see what happens. But that might have been what scared me off a little bit of Filipowski was I kind of thought his stats were worse last year than they actually were. Because I thought he averaged like closer to 7 points per game. But then you look up and he averaged about 10 and 6. So I want to ask you, for a guy that averaged 10 and 6, how good do his stats need to be to actually win this award? Like 15 and 8? Like how many points per game are we talking about?
Yeah, I think 5 or 6 point jump is relative. I think that's actually something that we can expect from him because of the amount of minutes that he'll play. We talked about potentially moving off of Lowry or Walker, maybe both. So the minutes should be there. I like Filipowski. I mean, I had him as a first rounder, like mocked on my like big board. So I thought he could do a lot of things. Versatile. He's leaned more into shooting the ball. He showed that in the combine as well. So I like Filipowski. The team is kind of like Will Hardy, good coach, but like, hey, what are you going to do with this roster with so many of these different guys? So I'm kind of worried a little bit that he might get buried in the depth chart. But again, with the upside being there, I think that it's a good value pick.
Yeah, I want to ask you about some guys that were injured last season because there is a no comeback player of the year award. Mm-hmm. So that could be a potential way of getting a very good player to win this award. Even though he wasn't bad last season, he just barely played. So I want to ask you because Jalen Suggs played 35 games last season, but he averaged 16 points per game. So does that even count at that point, or is that just a waste?
You know what? I didn't think about Jalen Suggs, but that is a good one. But
I don't know if it is or not because he averaged 16 points per game last year.
Yeah, and he's on a better team because of Bane, so he would likely get less touches. So I would mess with.
That's kind of why I was asking though. Do you think
he would be excellent for a comeback player though? Him and Ivy would be like co-favorites.
Yeah, I would bet him if there was an award market for that, but there isn't. So that's kind of the tricky part.
Yeah, I would mark him off here.
What do you think of Terrence Shannon's role? He's 50 to 1.
Yeah, I would probably look at Rob a little bit more. What is Rob Dillingham?
So Dillingham is at 200 to 1.
Yeah, maybe I would look at him a little bit more because they're probably going to try to ease him in. Shannon back front court, I guess is okay. I mean, he'll be playing behind Ant and McDaniels, so I think it's easier for Rob to kind of carve out minutes because of the Conley issue. And they're kind of been saying all last year, like people were asking like why Rob wasn't playing, and they kind of want to ease him into it, make him get more physical, better on the ball decision making. So I would look at Rob before I look at Shannon. Although Shannon did have obviously the playoff success, I just don't think that he'll make a bigger impact than what Rob would if Rob is able to be allocated those minutes for Mike Conley. It's going to bring Mike Conley along a little bit slower.
Yeah, I do want to ask you about another player, though, because there is a guy who I was interested in who made a jump in the postseason, but his regular season numbers weren't that great, and actually has a big role at the moment with this team. We keep going back to Miami, but off night, Davion Mitchell, 100 to 1. He averaged 7.9 points per game last season, 4.9 assists per game. He played 31 minutes with Miami in the regular season. He averaged 10.3 points. Mm-hmm. In the playoffs, though, he averaged 15. They paid him. They clearly like him. Any thoughts on Davion at 100 to 1?
Good player. I don't think he had the offensive capability to boost anything. And we talked about Jovic. I think Jovic is probably going to be playing a little bit more than what he will be, just because of size and playmaking. But Yeah, if he could score even a little bit, I think he would be prime. But I just don't think he'll put up the numbers to be good, like defensive, analytic type of person. But I just don't think offensively he has enough.
If the 3-point shot's falling, maybe, but he's been a
Yeah,
pretty streaky 3-point
yeah,
shooter throughout his
yeah.
career.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think of other guys, and Jovic I thought about. I ended up passing on him for the sixth man. I chose Robinson instead of the price range because we mentioned Powell. So Jovic might not actually be a sixth man on his own team. So that's kind of why I pivoted off of that. Jovic, I'm not going to take because his stats last year were actually not that bad. Now the usage might go up, but I ended up passing on Jovic because of it. But I'm trying to think of other guys maybe we can talk about. But
I got a guy that I like.
Okay, sure. So
Buzelis. I think Buzelis is primed for a breakout season. They moved off of Levine. You saw him kind of get into a little bit more of the on-ball action. Him, Kobe White played really well together, and Giddey. They played really well together. He's athletic. I think he can increase it. I think he can be a 14, 15-point scorer. I mean, he was mocked to be like the top overall pick before the Research thing. So
for reference, by the way, he was 11th in the draft. He averaged 8.6 points per game, 3.5 rebounds.
I think he can get that to 14, 15. The 3-point shooting has been a point of emphasis of how he wants to get there. He's a bouncy athlete, so you're going to see a lot of highlight plays. The Bulls play a fast-paced game. Billy Donovan loves to run, so I think the opportunities will be there. Play a ton of minutes. So I like Buzelis. You said he was at 14. It's some 20 to 22.
He's one of the favorites. I see 16.
But. Yeah, it's some 20, 22 out there if you look around. So at that 20 number, anything 20 or above, I think that's good value there.
Yeah, so I agree with you about Buzelis. That was going to be my favorite choice out of the lower odds guys because you have Amen, who everyone already knows is good. Nembhard could be interesting with the injuries that the Pacers have to the backcourt, but I think people know after the playoffs that Nembhard is a good player. Mathurin, same story. I'm not going to pick between two guys with the same odds on the same team. Avdia, I think we all know is very good. I think Avdia has proved he's good already on Portland. I don't see him having another leap. I just think he's an objectively solid basketball player. Buzelis last year, pre-All-Star break, averaged 6.4 points per game. Post-All-Star break, 13 points per game. So he already showed he can average around 15 for maybe even the course of a season. I like Buzelis as my favorite choice for the lower odds.
Yep.
You have Sharp, who's potentially at 20-1, but I'm going to pass on him there. Portland's got a lot of guards dash forward, so I don't know if the playing time will be consistent for him. But Buzelis is my favorite choice out of the lower odded players after watching him post All-Star break kind of thrive with this team. So, yeah, I think we covered it for most improved. Yep. Anyway, I was going to wrap it up for the two awards we're going to talk about in this episode. Before we get into the best bets, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is Arnold Fantasy. Play the pick'em entries. You win 5 times your entry. Pick higher or lower on your favorite player stats. Pick higher or lower, and once again, you can make a bunch of money. And you're looking at the new offer they have for new customers. Play just $5, get $100 bonus funds. Use promo code NBA SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They're off to a great start in college football and the NFL with picks and props, giving away cash prize every week just for tracking your bets in the app. Track 5 bets of the same type from one model that you build, and you can win $1K. Use promo code SGPN25 when you download the Rhythm app for a quarter off first month. That Rhythm, once again, promo code SGPN25 for a quarter off your first month. Welcome back, everyone, to the Mega M Podcast. Finished going through our thoughts for Sixth Man of the Year and Most Improved. Time to move on into our best bets. Lonte, I know we kind of covered it a bit for the Sixth Man already. But you know what? We'll go with our top 2 choices for each award. For Sixth Man and for Most Improved, what are your best bets?
Sixth Man top would be Ty Jerome would be 1. And Anthony Simons would be 2. Those are my top 2.
Okay, and what about for the other award?
For Most Improved, top would be Buzelis. The second would be Trey Murphy.
Okay. So for mine, I'm going to go a little bit bolder with my Sixth Man of the Year. I like Jerome as well, but I'm going to go a bit longer. I mentioned them before. I'll go with the same prices exactly. Give me Bobby Portis at 35-1, and give me Okonkwo at 35-1. I think Okonkwo is my favorite out of that entire group because Porzingis is supposed to start. We know he's guaranteed to get hurt at some point. So I do think if he gets to 41 games, Okonkwo is still going to play a bunch of minutes because he's really good. And I do think that he can definitely have a solid role with this team. And Atlanta might win 50 games, ? So I think that that's going to be my main choice. But I'll go with Portis at 35-1, and I'll go with Okonkwo at 35-1 as my two choices for the Sixth Man of the Year award. For Most Improved, I'm going to go. I mean, you mentioned Buzelis already, who I agree with. That's at 16-1, but you said there were better prices out there. I'm going to take Keita at 60-1. I think it's a great price for a starting center in the league with not much, I'd say, size in the front court. They lost Cornette. They lost Porzingis. There is a massive opening there. So I'm going to go with Keita at plus 6,000. I think that's it. Thought about Filipowski, but honestly, his stats were better than I remember them being last year. So I'm not sure if he's actually going to win the award, but I am interested in him in general. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I can wait on Filipowski until Kessler gets traded, and then I'll bet him mid-season. But yeah, I think my 2 is going to be Buzelis with you, and I'll also end up throwing in Keita. I thought about Reed Shepherd. I don't actually know how good he is. Like, I know what Buzelis can be with this team. Reed Shepherd is a complete wild card who Houston's praying turns out to be good. So that's kind of going to be my 2. I'll overlap with you with Buzelis, but I'll also throw in Keita as my long shot. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for the show. We have more award shows coming up over the next few days. So the next episode is going to be with Lonte and with Terrell, and that's going to be happening tomorrow, going through the Coach of the Year and the Rookie of the Year awards. Anyway, Lonte, anything else you want to add for you on the show?
That's about it, man. We're getting close to the season. Can't wait.
Cool. Once again, a reminder, shop your lines, especially for awards. Anyway, till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.